In this tutorial, I'm going to be talking to you about product curves. Now, what product curves are is a way of measuring how much additional output you get when you add an additional input. So in this particular case, we're going to be talking about a hypothetical firm that produces dining room tables. Okay, so how many additional tables are we going to get as we add additional workers? So the inputs that we're going to be dealing with are the number of workers. It could be something else, but in this particular case, we're going to be talking about the number of workers. The concept of total product is simply the total quantity of output. Okay, so how much total stuff, in this case dining room tables, are we going to get as we keep adding workers? So starting at 1 all the way up to 9. Now, marginal product is one of the key concepts here, and that is how much additional product, a kind of a substitute word for marginal is additional. How much additional production are you going to get as you add one additional worker? So the formula for understanding marginal product is simply the total product change, or the change in total product, divided by the change in inputs. Now, we're only going to be adding one worker at a time, so you can kind of ignore this second part of the equation and just focus on the change in total product. Average product is simply the total production, or the total number of items produced, divided by the number of inputs or workers. So, for example, if we produced a total of 19 tables, we would divide 19 by 3, and that gives us 6.3, rounded, of course. All right, so let's walk through the table, and what you're going to see is this is kind of like a puzzle. It's like a number puzzle, and it's pretty simple equations, but the purpose here is to help you see these relationships. So let's begin. Of course, with 0 units of labor, you're not going to get any output. When we move from 0 to 1, the total production goes from 0 to 5. The additional production is 5. If we take the 5 units produced and divide it by 1, we get 5. When we move on to the second unit of labor, the total product increases from 5 to 11. The amount of the increase is 6 additional tables. The average production is going to be 11 divided by 2 units of labor, which gives us 5.5. For the third unit of labor, we increase production from 11 to 19. The additional product, or the marginal product, is plus 8, or positive 8. 19 divided by 3 is 6.3. For the fourth unit of labor, we increase, we don't know how much we increase. So this is one of the tricky ones. So we have to know, again, the definition of marginal product. See, we already have the previous total product with the third unit of labor. If we know that the additional product of the fourth unit of labor is 6, then we know that if we add 6 to 19, that's going to give us a total product of 25. Now, 25 divided by 4 is going to give us 6.25. For the fifth unit of labor, we have 30 units produced. The change from 25 to 30 is additional 5 units of production. 30 divided by 5 gives us an average product of 6. For the sixth unit of labor, we don't, once again, know what the total product is. We also don't know the marginal product, but in this case, we're given the average product. If we know that the total product divided by 6 gives us 5.5, if we multiply 5.5 times 6, we get our total product, which in this case is going to be 33. The change, of course, is positive 3 from 30 to 33. Moving on to the seventh unit of labor, we increase total production from 33 to 34. Marginal product is positive 1. The average product is 34 divided by 7, which gives us 4.8. Now when we go to the 8th unit of labor, we see that the marginal product is 0. So that the number of additional output is 0, meaning that the total product has not increased at all. So it remains at 34. The average product is going to be 34 divided by 8, which gives us 4.25. And for the 9th unit of labor, we see that the total product is actually decreased. So it's -1. 33 divided by 9 gives us 3.6. Okay. Now very quickly, we want to look at some of the key ideas here and some of the key terms that are related to these different concepts. One of these concepts is what we call increasing marginal returns. When we look at the marginal production from 5 all the way up to 8, we see increasing marginal returns. And what that means is that as we increase production, not only is it positive up until that 3rd unit of labor, it's actually increasing from 5 to 6 to 8. Okay, so it's increasing at an increasing rate. However, once we get to the 4th unit of labor, we start to run into what economists call diminishing marginal returns, or the law of diminishing marginal returns, sometimes called decreasing marginal returns. And what we mean here is we decline. We go from 8 to 6 to 5 to 3 to 1. Okay, so we're still increasing the total production, but we're increasing at a decreasing rate. Next, we have the 8th unit of labor, where we have 0 return. Okay, so 0 return is obviously not somebody that's worth hiring. Okay, so we see 0 return for the 8th unit of labor. Obviously, they're not worth hiring if you increase production by 0. So whatever their cost is, it's going to not be worth it. We don't necessarily know about all of these other workers because we don't know how much they're being hired for, and we don't know how much we're selling the output for. But in the case of the worker who has 0 marginal product, we certainly know that they're not worth hiring. And then for the final unit of labor, the 9th unit of labor, we actually have a negative. We have a negative return. Okay, so that is certainly not a worker worth hiring. So this 9th unit of labor is also certainly not worth hiring. Okay. We're now going to move to the graphing section of this assignment or worksheet. And in the question 2 or part 2, it asks you to plot the total product curve on the left-hand side and the marginal and average product curves on the right-hand side. Now the marginal product curve, I'm going to code it in blue, and I'm going to code the average product in red. Now I've already plotted these things out, and we're just going to fill in the blanks here, connect the dots. So this is what your total product curve is going to look like. Notice that it starts off increasing very, very rapidly, and then it's eventually going to table off. So this is your total product curve. initially a very sharp increase, and up to the third unit of output, we have increasing returns all the way up to that third unit. And then once we get to the fourth unit, the fourth through the seventh unit, we have diminishing returns, eventually zero returns, and then negative returns. Now on the marginal and average product curves, these curves are going to look a little bit different. And the reason I've asked you to plot them separately, or that I am plotting them separately, is so that you can see what's going on. And that way it's not so small on this side. So we're going to start with the marginal product curve. The marginal product starts at 5 and starts rising very quickly, but then it's going to start diminishing. And then it's going to go to 0 and then ultimately negative. So this is your marginal product. And then your average product is going to start at 5. It's going to rise, and then it actually will gradually start to fall as well, but not as rapidly. Okay. So I'm going to talk about these relationships, but I'm going to talk about them in the context of these questions. So the first question, for this question 3, it's asked, when does this firm experiencing increasing marginal returns? We've already discussed this. This is going to be, if we go back to the top to our data set, we see increasing marginal returns between the first and the third units of labor. So I'm going to write 1 through 3 units of labor. Diminishing returns sets in at that's going to be at the 4th unit of labor. Okay, so let's go back to our table here, and we can see diminishing returns starts at the 4th unit of labor, 4 through 7. That's right, 4th unit of labor. Total product will increase as long as marginal product is, okay. So if you look at the total product curve, as long as the marginal product is a positive number, and we can actually look at this in the data set as well, as long as the marginal product is a positive number, the total product is increasing. But as soon as it becomes 0 or less, it either stops increasing or starts to decrease. And of course, we see that here as well. So the total product will increase as long as the marginal product is positive. Positive here. And we'll switch to green here. If the marginal product is positive, then total product will be, well, this is kind of the same question. If the marginal product is positive, then it's going to be increasing the total product. Now that doesn't mean that you're looking at the law of increase, you're looking at increasing returns. It simply means that you have positive returns. So you could have diminishing returns, as we do between the 4th and the 7th units of labor, but diminishing returns doesn't mean negative returns. It simply means that it's increasing at a decreasing rate. Question 7 says, if the marginal product is above the average product, then the average product is, well, the answer here is increasing. So if we look over here, as long as the marginal product is rising and it's higher than the average product is going to be going up. However, if the marginal product is below the average product, meaning once the marginal product starts falling below the average product, then the average product starts decreasing. Now, one way to understand these two questions is to think of a quiz average in a classroom. So imagine that you have taken, say, 5 quizzes and you have an 80% average. If you have a 90% on your additional quiz or your marginal quiz, then your average would go up. However, let's suppose that your additional quiz grade is, say, a 70% when your average is 80. That marginal quiz is going to pull your average down. So you might just always remember that the marginal leads the average. If the marginal is going up, then the average is going up. If the marginal is going down, then the average is going down. This concludes this worksheet.